Hello again mga Bebe Loves. So, I am here again to give you an overview of Business Finance Module 6, which I gave yesterday, last Friday. So, overview of managing cash, receivables, and inventory. So, ayan. This is our Module 6. So under this Module 6, you have, I think, 2 lessons. You have Lesson 1, Working Capital Management, and Lesson 2, Operating Cycle and Cash Conversion Cycle. So here, kakaroon tayo ulit ng mga computations. So let's start with, okay, so you have your What I Know, preliminary activities. Let's start with the working capital management. For what's in activity, give an example of a local Philippine company you're familiar with. You can draw its logo in your notebook, so that is the separate sheet. What are the assets needed by that company for its daily operations? So you list down all the assets. If you can find an amount, it's better. If not naman, kung walang internet connection, okay lang din. Basta mag-list lang din ng mga assets na kailangan ng company na yon na napili ninyo. Next, for what's new activity, cross-reference your answer with the statement of financial positions of Jollibee below. So, cross-reference lang. Kung naglista kayo ng mga asset na ito, you can check it. You can write a paragraph na same assets are needed with the company I am familiar with the Jollibee, with the given statement of financial position of Jollibee. So, if may amount, you can answer this question. Does the company choose as a higher, lower, or same level of assets? If walang amount, okay lang din naman. So, kung na-list nyo tong mga to at parehas din doon sa company na napili ninyo, okay lang din. Mag-justify na lang kayo sa baba. So, para madali ang ating discussions or ang inyong paggawa ng mga activities. Okay, let's start with the lesson proper. What is it? Term working capital, wala daw po siyang definition. But in accounting, working capital refers to the excess of current assets over current liabilities. So, in equation, ito po siya. So, working capital is equals to current assets less current liabilities. So, sa mga current lang po tayo. Okay? So, here, basically, there are 3 types of working capital financing policies you can choose from. First is the maturity matching working capital financing policy. Here, para mas madaling tandaan, ang permanent working capital ay i-finance ng long-term sources. And yung mga temporary working capital naman, financed by short-term sources. So, from the term itself, maturity matching, i-match nyo siya. So, pag permanent, long-term sources. Pag temporary, short-term sources. Okay? Next is the aggressive working capital financing policies. In aggressive working capital financing policy naman, ang tatandaan naman natin dito, yung permanent working capital niya, since aggressive siya, i-finance niya ng short-term sources. So, yun yung pipiliin niya. And dito, kay aggressive, most of the sources daw po ng business ay tie up sa non-current assets. Ano ba yung mga non-current assets natin? Yung hindi madaling ma-turn into cash, such as machineries, equipments, land. Okay? And requires only small amount of cash. Okay? So, small amount lang ng mga current assets. On the other hand, yung total opposite naman ni aggressive, si conservative working capital financing policy. Dito naman kay conservative, even temporary working capital daw po ay financed by long-term sources. Okay? Dito naman, high investment in current asset naman. So, high investment kila cash, receivables, inventory. Okay? This is considered conservative. So, here, the business has substantial amount of cash, receivables, and inventory. Kay aggressive, konti lang. Kay conservative, lagi siyang may hawak na current assets such as cash, receivables, and inventories. Okay, so I think we have an example here. Okay, ano to? So, managing working capital is important because failure to do so may result in the closure of business. Because if hindi mo magawa yung mga financing policies na dapat para sa negosyo mo, magre-result talaga siya sa closure or probably yung mga finance mong mga investments or working capital, hindi siya mag-work. Kaya, mas lalo kang mababaon dun sa mga nautangan. Yun yung isa sa kailangang gawin sa managing working capital. Then, example, company needs 10 million in working capital to support an annual sales of 50 million. Okay, so, sa 50 million, kailangan niya ng 10 million na working capital. If the sales increase in 10 million, okay, so from 50 million daw na annual sales, ay naging 100 million siya. Will 10 million working capital be enough? Okay, so, syempre hindi. So, dahil nga dun sa unang statement natin, 10 million ang kailangang working capital sa 50 million annual sales. Also, you have an additional reason or justification here. Why? Because 10 million sales, there will be more cash needed for operations. So, syempre naman, since lumaki yung sales mo ng almost half, from 50 million, nadagdagan siya ng additional 50 million. Syempre, kailangan mo ng additional cash for operation. So, to furtherly elaborate yung ating permanent and temporary working capital, so ito po siya. So, ang tinatawag natin permanent working capital is the minimum level of current assets required by a firm to carry on its business operations. So, given sa production capacity or sales range. Yung temporary working capital naman, excess of working capital over the permanent working capital. So, I have here an illustrative sample. So, you have here, Bugay is managing working capital of SR Ice Cream. Okay, SR Ice Cream is engaged in selling of different ice creams. So, here are the sales volumes. So, from January to March, ang sales niya ay 200,000 pesos. Working capital niya is 120. Okay, 900,000. 300,000 for second quarter. Third quarter, 750. Working capital niya is 250. Fourth quarter, 350 and 150. So, we can see the working capital never goes below 120. So, ito yung working capital natin. Ang pinakababa niya ay 120 for the year. That is the permanent working capital requirements. And si 120,000 po ang ating permanent working capital. The maximum temporary working capital is 180. Saan nakuha si 180? So, difference daw po siya ni 300,000, which is the maximum because peak season po ng ice cream natin to. Since it is yung ating summer season dito sa ating bansa. So, 300,000 less the permanent working capital. So, that is the maximum temporary working capital, 180. For the fourth quarter naman, temporary working capital is 30,000. So, 150 minus the 120. So, that is a temporary working capital. Okay, so, next po tayo. Okay, so let's go now to the lesson 2. Operating cycle and cash conversion cycle. Okay, working capital is a company's investment in current asset such as ito. Alam nyo na yung mga current assets na yan. Accounts receivable, inventories. Net working capital is the difference between current asset and current liabilities. So, yun yung binigay kong equation kanina. So, ito siya. Lagi natin tatandaan yan. So, purma current lang. Hindi ka magle-less dyan ng non-current. So, this is the operating cycle. So, sum of days of inventory and days of receivables. So, from cash, ipoproduce natin siya as a product. So, magiging inventory. And then, i-dispose natin siya. Pwede siya maging accounts receivable. And then, kapag nabayaran, magiging siyang cash. So, this is the operating cycle. So, these are some equations that you need to identify the operating cycle and the cash conversion cycle. So, first, we have the days of inventory and days of receivables. So, days of inventory or inventory conversion period or average age of inventories. So, short for DSI of 20 days means that on average, it takes 20 days to sell its inventory. So, the formula is inventory cost of goods sold over 360 days ito. 360 days. Since the statement of financial position tells the financial condition of a company at the end of the period, we take average inventory for the year in our calculation. Okay, so I think meron tayong magiging example later on. Doon na lang natin siya i-discuss thoroughly. So, ito naman, days of sales outstanding. Average time of company to collect its receivables. So, DSO siya. For example, a DSO of 40 days means that a customer who purchase on a company on account, so if inutang muna niya, will pay his or her balance in 40 days. So, receivables over sales over 360 days. Okay, revenue is from a statement of comprehensive income or the income statement. And accounts receivable is from the statement of financial position. Okay, so we use average receivables for the year. Puro mga average ang gagamitin natin. Next, days of payables outstanding and the cash conversion cycle. So, DPO, average number of days for the company to pay its creditors. Okay, so you have here payables over cost of goods sold. So, pinaiksi na lang po natin siya. Over 360 days. Okay, so saan daw nakukuha si purchases? Kay comprehensive income. Si accounts payable naman kay statement of financial position. Okay, and then we go now to the cash conversion cycle or the CCC, also called as the net operating cycle. Para siya mako-compute. So, si cash conversion cycle, operating cycle minus days payable. So, saan natin kukuhanin si operating cycle? Si days of inventory plus days receivable. Si days inventory, eto po siya. Ayan. Si days of inventory plus receivables. So, doon natin makukuha si operating cycle. I-add natin siya and then less the days payable. Ito po siya. Days payable. Okay, so, ganun lang po siya kadali. Okay, let's consider this an example. So, 20 ang ating, so nag-consider tayo na 20, ito, si DSI, and then si receivable ay 40. And then, nag-assume tayo ng 30 days kay DPO. So, kaya nakuha natin itong mga ito. So, meaning, yung 30 na nakuha natin, 30 days is the time between the cash outlay and the cash received. So if the CCC is negative, it indicates that the company has excess cash to invest. A CCC, I think, cash conversion of negative 10 indicates that the company has excess cash to invest for 10 days. Okay, so since ito ay positive, wala daw po siyang excess cash. Okay? So, yun po ang ating cash conversion cycle. Okay? So, that ends the discussion. So, madali lang naman siya for the module 6. So, let's go now to the activities. For activity 1, you have the working capital management. So, for lesson 1. Identify the type of working capital financing policies. Ano dun sa tatlong na-discuss nating working capital financing policies ang nandito. Okay, if mataas ang current asset mo, mababa ang non-current asset mo, anong type of working capital yan? Okay, so the next cylinder natin, mababa naman si current asset, mataas si non-current asset, anong type of working capital? Okay. You can draw this in your notebook and then explanation beside or below, whichever you prefer. Next, how about kung pantay si current asset, pantay din si non-current asset. Okay, so that is for your activity 1. For your activity 2, operating cycle and cash conversion cycle. So, I gave the number of inventories already. So, hindi nyo na kailangang mag-compute ng mga days inventory, days receivable, days payable. So, it is given here. So, you just have to calculate the firm's operating cycle and calculate firm's cash conversion cycle. After you calculate this, you could at least give a quick explanation on the cash conversion na nakuha ninyo. If it's positive or if it's negative. Ano ang ibig sabihin niya? Okay, you have what I have learned. Just fill in the blanks. What I can do. Okay, consider yourself as the owner of a medium business enterprise. Would it be better for your business to have a lot of cash on hand? Why or why not? So, consider that it is a medium business enterprise and possibly consider kung anong type ng industry yung business na pipiliin ninyo. Kung supplies, restaurants. Next. Activity. Okay. The following information is taken from the records of Chopper Trading. Okay, so required. Determine the operating cycle and cash conversion cycle. I have here a specific note. Okay, that the operating cycle and conversion cycle of the business is determined by computing first. So, ang una nyong gagawin, number 1, ang gagawin nyo hahanapin nyo si inventory conversion period. Number 2, receivable collection period. Number 3, si payable deferral period. And then number 4, tsaka nyo palang kukuhanin si operating cycle. And number 5, si cash conversion cycle. So, you have 5 items here. Okay? Always round up to get the whole day period. Let's say, for example, you get 6.4. 7 days na lang ninyo. Okay? So, round up tayo po, ha? Round up. Okay, 6.3. 7 days na rin po. Whole day ang hahanapin natin. Okay, so you have also additional activity. Okay, discuss how the management of the Chopper Trading might be able to reduce the cash conversion cycle. So, ano ang pwedeng gawin para daw po ma-reduce or mapunta ng negative or hindi man ma-negative, malapit sa negative. Okay, and that ends the Module 6 of Business Finance, Managing Cash, Receivables, and Inventory. So, I do hope na yung mga overview na ginagawa ko for the modules ay kahit paano may naitutulong. So, see you again next time. Bye-bye!